We'll start a session today by paying our obeisances to His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON. So we are, like I said, in our journey for chapter 12. And chapter 12 is pretty small. We have just 20 verses. And today we will be covering verse 13 to 20, which is the last section. So last time we covered 3 sections, and it was a very important section of Gita as well, especially the verses from 8 to 12. Also that which shows us different grades of the devotees. So what we'll be doing today is I'll be just brushing through the last class a bit to start with, and then we will move to the last section, which is the qualities that endear one to Lord Krishna, pure bhakta qualities which endear. So before we get started, so we went through, so this chapter starts with Arjuna asking the question, right, that to Krishna, as who is better, a personalist or an impersonalist, who is perfect? And then, Krishna starts explaining, and how for us to understand, about personalist and impersonalist, of course, we went in detail last class, but just to briefly touch. So there are 3 features of absolute truth, and Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So Brahman, this is it's like different primary focuses of different yoga practices. So Brahman, it is the primary focus of Gyan yogis, and the understanding of theirs is that the absolute truth is the effulgence, the Brahma Jyoti. It is impersonal. It's not a person. And the result of them, is they attain the destination. They attain impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Now, next level is a bit of higher level than that is Paramatma, which is the understanding that there's a localized super soul within each of the living entity. And it's Dhyan yogis, who focus, their primary focus is on the Paramatma. And, their destination is as well, Brahma Jyoti. Yeah. Now, the highest aspect is the Bhagavan aspect. Yeah. And this is the understanding, a clear understanding that the ultimate absolute truth is a person. Yeah. And the path for this is Bhakti Yoga. And the destination for this is Vaikuntha. Yeah. Vaikuntha planets. Okay. So this is important, and this is, clearly mentioned in Bhagavatam, that there are these 3 levels, and a clear, picture with the shloka and everything. So with that, when, Arjuna asked that question, who is better, a personalist who worship you in your personal form, or an impersonalist, who worships the effulgence of yours? So Krishna in the second verse itself, very clearly says that the most perfect person is the one who is engaged in worshipping his personal form. Yeah. So it should be very clear from this shloka, right? And then further, that's why we say when we learn the yoga ladder also, why Bhakti Yoga is the topmost, because that focuses on the personal aspect of Krishna. And it is here, in the prior verse, we saw how Krishna says that's the perfect way to worship. Okay. So it is like a staircase when you go. It's not that the other ladders are not authorized. They are. But like we also learned something like Dhyan Yoga or meditation, which has meditation in it, which is also called as Ashtanga Yoga. It was a primary practice at certain yoga. We learn that shloka, right? Every time the last slide of ours conclude with the shloka of Krate Adhyayato Vishnu, yeah, Tretayam Yajito Guru, Dvapare Paricharyanam Kalau Tadhari Kirtana. Yeah. So each yoga have a primary form of sacrifice, right? So Dhyan Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga was a primary form of sacrifice in Satyuga at that time point, right? but we are now in Kali Yuga. So from bhakti, that's why, bhakti is the, and chanting is the main sacrifice for this yoga, right? So it is like taking a direct lift, which is, easier, because we don't have to undergo, like we learned, Dhyan yogis, they have to find the right place, right, right sitting posture, many things we learn, right? They have to sit on a certain level itself, on kushagrass, secluded place, So there's, and these things in today's world, it's not easy to find a secluded place, right? And our mind, our intelligence is also depleted, right? So we are not at that level. So that's the key thing why it is easier and also faster when it comes to this yoga. Okay. With that, then we also saw that what Krishna says, that he clearly says that people who are following the impersonal path, it is troublesome. For them to advance further, it's troublesome. And it is difficult. And then he says, contradicting, that for bhakti yoga, for people who worship him with his personal aspect, in fact, he is the one, for them, he comes personally to deliver them. Okay. So from the ocean of birth and death. So it is very important for us to learn that, Krishna, he himself, he loves us so much that he has a special affection towards his devotees, right? And it's his that bhakta vatsalya, right? And how we, correlated it with the story of Akbar and Birbal story, right? Where Akbar himself, he challenges, why does he, your Lord come himself? Why can't he just delegate? And then he learned how, at the situation when, his son was in a tough spot, he himself, went, even though he had a huge army around. So that's how, the love for Krishna is for us, extremely. So Krishna so far describes Arjuna the difference between the personalist and impersonalist. And for personal form is the best. And the main other thing is that he himself comes to deliver, for people who worship him in personal form. This was the first and second section. Now, third section, last time we learned about, okay, now we learned that the personal form is the perfect approach, right? Then we may have a question that even in personal form of that bhakti, is there a kind of progression as who is more dear to Krishna, who is more close to Krishna? So Krishna gives this progressive stages of bhakti. And this we learned, like, with this overall 4 shlokas, and the 5th of that, which is the 12th shloka, gives us the hierarchy. So from 8th shloka to 11th shloka, we learned how, Krishna just wants us to surrender, right? He's so kind and merciful that, this statement, that he is trying to even accommodate those people who are not ready to accommodate him in their life. So he's giving like, easier levels. Okay, if you cannot do this, do at least this. If you cannot even do that, then do something. So at the end of the day, even if you do something, it will gradually elevate you, to come to bhakti. That's what he's saying. So he is giving us steps, not big rocks. If we find, while we are climbing, if we find the olden days, steps used to be really high in the height, right? So if we cannot do that, then he is reducing the level for us so that we can accommodate it, right? So the 8th shloka, it's said where, the highest of all are the people who fix their mind and intelligence on Krishna. Yeah, both. So mind and intelligence. And even in this, we saw how the level of people who fix their mind on Krishna devotees, they are the highest, because it is related to heart, right? It is it's that love for you, right? Whereas intelligence is, with the brain, right? So it's like people who are worshipping him because he is God, because he has that opulence, and because he is the ultimate truth. So in that way, so even between mind and intelligence, mind is the highest. And then we saw how examples of it, like Haridas Thakur, and Sanatan Goswami, Rup Goswami. So Haridas Thakur was the perfect example for fixing the mind, right? And intelligence is Sanatan Goswami and Rup Goswami, who wrote all those scriptures for us so that we could understand Krishna. And now Krishna says, if you cannot fix your mind and intelligence 24 hours a day, then at least follow the regulative principles. That is, at least practice abhyasa, he says. Practice the sadhana, right? Make sure that every day our sadhana bhakti is getting stronger, right? So that we can reach the level of shloka 8, right? So he says at least follow those. And then he comes further down, okay, if you cannot fix your mind and intelligence on me, if you cannot do sadhana bhakti, then at least work for me. Work for me, again, we saw that, two kinds, right? One is, working for Krishna and performing seva, like cooking prasadam, directly serving Krishna, right? Like collecting flowers for Krishna, cooking prasadam, distributing books, preaching, right? Work for me, right? And, and then the second part was voluntary service. If you cannot work yourself, directly involve yourself in serving Krishna, then at least Krishna says, at least have, kind of at least work in a voluntary service. Like we saw the examples of how a person, they can, he has a, van company and leveraging, your material things, for Krishna service, giving those for prachar of Krishna consciousness, and also a conference, right? A person has materially he's well off and he has a building, and and he is giving one of the floors for Krishna conscious purposes, to preach, to spread, right? So if you're materially well, like donation of a land for Krishna conscious purpose, so at least work, if not directly, then at least through voluntary service. Okay? And then we saw that in the end, he says, even if you can't do this, due to various things like family or obligations or different things, then give up the results of your work. That is, do some charity, more social service. That will at least make you get that, that quality of learning to give, learning to give what you have earned, right? Through various charitable activities you could do, right? Either donation or going and serving the old age, children under, underage. So, yeah, so the various ways. So at least, that will learn, give you the capacity to learn the art of, giving, that is sacrificing, right? So that is the level he comes to. So if you can't do this, then at least do this. So these are, the progressive stages which Krishna mentioned, for performing bhakti. Yeah. Now, with that, we will move now to today's session, which is like qualities that endear one to Lord Krishna. See, now, when we are talking about this devotional practice and the progressive stage of bhakti, right? Now we have to also understand that there are 3 stages of devotees, types of devotees in 3 levels. Okay, one is Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, and Uttam Adhikari. Okay, so these are the different levels of types of devotees, different stages where they are. Now, Kanishta Adhikari are neophytes, who have just got into spirituality, who are doing the sadhana, of theirs, and they are trying to chant the holy name of the Lord, So it's like Kanishta Adhikari, yeah. And then comes Madhyam Adhikari, right? So Madhyam Adhikari are those who are doing the practice, but they have been fully engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord as active service of the Lord, right? They are to be considered that they are Madhyamadhikaris are like midway in devotional service, between the Kanishtadhikari and Uttamadhikari. That's why it's Madhyam, right? The name itself, to make it easy. And the last, the highest category is Uttamadhikari, right? Uttamadhikari are very advanced devotees in devotional service, They are not interested in blaspheming others, or it's like their heart is completely clean, yeah, and they have attained that unalloyed Krishna conscious stage, so this is and that's why this section talks about quality of a devotee that endear Krishna, right? What are the qualities, and Uttama Adhikari will have all these qualities which endear the most to Krishna. Okay. And as we are Kanishta Adhikaris, we need to endeavor, to try to develop these qualities of devotees, constantly, and try to, go up in our ladder of devotional service, developing all these qualities. Yeah. So it is not about, imitating them. Yeah. It's about, following the footsteps and trying, constantly trying to have our sadhana bhakti very strong so that we can reach. Yeah. So now this, so just something on the Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga is the most effective path of spiritual advancement. A Bhakti Yogi exhibits transcendental qualities which make him dear to Krishna. Krishna is pleased with such devotees, as he describes in this section by using the word priya in most verses. Yes, this is the speciality of these verses from 13 to 20. You will see consistently how Krishna highlights such a devotee is very dear to him. Such a devotee with such qualities is very dear to him. So we can imagine when Krishna himself is saying this, so how much we should be keeping that, keeping on trying to develop these qualities, right? A devotee, we have to understand, a devotee who, when he is engaging himself in devotional service, he does not need to separately endeavor to develop these qualities. Because as we progress in our devotional service, it will automatically, these qualities will develop, So, because when we are self-realized, when we understand, what do we mean by self-realized? We have learned this. It has three aspects. One is a self-realized person is someone who understands his position as a soul, understands the supreme position as he's the supreme, and understands the relationship between the soul and the super soul or Krishna. Yeah. So what is the relationship? We learned that also several times. Jivera Swarupa Hoy Krishnera Nityadas. We are eternal servants of Krishna. Once we understand this position, it is, we get at a soul level. We are not understanding at a body level, right? Our understanding is beyond this matter level. If we understand that our eternal position is to serve the Supreme Lord as a soul, right? And soul is eternal, right? So, and that's why, when we get into spirituality, as in when we progress, we will feel that, there are time points when, we get angry, right? We get that anxious nature, right? We'll see it calming down, because every time when we come across these come to make us stronger, because once we have realized that we are at soul level, that's level of understanding, then we keep reminding ourselves that as a devotee, getting angry is something because we are attached to a body level aspect. We are not thinking at a soul level, right? Whether we are striving to get something or something, it is with body level, right? So that understanding comes in us, So when we do some activity, as a devotees, we slowly learn the art of, like we learn doing our best and leaving the rest to Krishna. We start developing that art of dependence on Krishna, right? Which eventually reduces our anxiety, that anger, anxiety, all these qualities, right? So slow, but this is a gradual process, right? It is gradual. We cannot expect that we are not getting stronger at our sadhana bhakti and we develop this. No, we have to get stronger at our sadhana bhakti, right? So we as devotees, we reach a level where we become more compassionate to people around us, because when we start seeing them wasting their life, even though they are part and parcel of Krishna, because that we have understood, they are part and parcel. But if they are not doing it, then we start feeling more compassionate, and that is where we start. We want to make them. And that's how this whole book distribution and all of these activities. Why? Because devotees are very compassionate to these people. They know where they are heading to, right? So yes, so Bhakti Yoga, that's why Krishna, these qualities, Krishna again and again highlights that, a devotee with this quality is very dear to me. Okay, so we'll start with the 13th and 14th shloka. So Kavya Mataji, can you read these two?
Yes, sir. Transcendental qualities of a pure devotee. Adveshta sarva bhutanam maitre karuna ivacha nirmamo nirahankarah sama dukha sukha kasmi. Santushta satatam yogi yatatama dhrad nishchaya may arpita mano buddhir yo mad bhakta sa me priya. One who is not envious but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me, such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So see, shlokas, you will see that priyaha word, is used again and again by Krishna. And what does that mean? Krishna is saying, devotees with these qualities, what he is saying is very dear to me. Yeah. So what are these qualities now? Non-envious. We have learned this. Krishna has highlighted this so many times in Bhagavad Gita so far, right? So non-envious is the key, right? Even before we saw how he highlighted non-enviousness and faith, right? These are the two aspects which he highlighted so many times. So one who is non-envious, yeah, who does not think himself as proprietor, see, proprietorship we learned in 5th chapter, right? The last verse, Bhukta Ram Yagna Tapasam, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. Krishna says he is Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, right? Surudam Sarva Bhutanam Gyatva Mam Shantim Nischa, right? The one who knows that Krishna, is the supreme controller, well-wisher, that person, he will attain peace. That was the peace formula we learned. Now, I think, what we think when we see these qualities, right? Free from false ego, equal in happiness and distress, tolerant, satisfied, self-controlled, engaged in devotional service with determination. We think that, when we see a pure devotee with such a quality, a pure devotee has this quality. But when we see such a devotee also, or when we see something like this, we think that, they have those as they are at that level, and I can never be at that level. So this is like impossible task for me. That's our mindset which comes through. But we need to understand, for them to get into that level also, They were at our level first, right? It's a progression, right? That's why we study progressive stages, right? So we have to, we have to understand that if we sit, if a first grader thinks the 10th grade is very tough, I can never be able to do this. That person in 10th grade is able to do it because it's easy for them. They are at that level, you know, and I won't be able to do it. And then the person doesn't study. Will they get into the 10th grade age? No. They have to consistently put their efforts. They have to do their do's and don'ts every day. Only then they will be able to reach that grade, higher grade, right? It's not that they can never reach. No, just because somebody is at that level does not mean that we can never be there. That should be our consistent endeavor, and then we will get closer to Krishna, right? So we should put all our endeavor to take out all our anarthas, what we have, like anger, greed, envy, ego. We have to try our best to take them out, by consistently continuing our determination, because determination is needed. That's the key also, like Krishna mentions here, with determination. That is also the key, So then we will get stepwise there. With determination, only the first grade can get into the 10th grade, right? So now these qualities we'll see a bit in detail with examples from our Shastras, yeah? And most of them are from Srimad Bhagavatam. So when we are talking about non-enviousness, yeah, so we are, it is called as Adveshta. See, we have stories in Bhagavatam which, very nicely depicts, non-envious nature. Envious nature leads into destruction, and having the non-envious nature is, by having that, you can get closer to Krishna, very close to Krishna. Now we have this picture here of Ambarish Maharaj story, right? I don't know if any of you know Ambarish Maharaj story here, Durvasa Muni and Ambarish Maharaj story. No? Okay. Kavya Mataji, yeah?
No, I don't know.
Okay, so maybe I'll try to give a gist of it. So, so Ambarish Maharaj was one of the exalted kings, and he was a devotee, pure devotee. Now, what happened was, it was fasting day, Ekadashi, and Durvasa Muni is one of the munis which we know, that he is known for his anger, and he is also a devotee of the Lord. Yeah? Now, what happened was Durvasa Muni visited Ambarish Maharaj, and it was, the fasting day. Yeah, and when Durvasa Muni visited, Ambarish Maharaj welcomed him with all the hospitality and everything. And Durvasa Muni said that he would freshen up and he would come back, and he would do his rituals, and he'll come back for having prasadam together. Now, when Durvasa Muni left to do all his rituals, take bath and everything, it was the time for the fast breaking hour. So when you see our Ekadashi messages also, which we send, when you start, there is a start time of Ekadashi, and there's a fast breaking period for Ekadashi as well in the messages we send. Now, it was actually that time where it was fast breaking period, and Ambarish Maharaj was, was really getting, was waiting for Durvasa Muni, and Durvasa Muni, if he comes during that fast breaking hours, then yeah, Ambarish Maharaj could break the fast, and they could, and that is auspicious, breaking the fast, at that time. So, and Ambarish Maharaj followed all the processes, right? So, what happened was Durvasa Muni did not turn up. He was not turning up during, and it was close to the end of the fast breaking hour. So then, one of the sages there within the Ambarish Maharaj, kingdom, he suggested Ambarish Maharaj that maybe he could just have a sip of water that will hold him off by, not really breaking the fast with food, and Durvasa Muni, not being around. At the same time, at least he would break the fast, in a way also with a sip of water. Because fasting is actually not having anything, that's how it was carried. So now Amrish Maharaj just had a sip of water with the advice. And Durvasa Muni came there and he saw Amrish Maharaj taking the sip of water. And he really got angry and seen the picture that, with his anger, with his power, he made one of the demon appear, to kill Amrish Maharaj. Now, Amrish Maharaj was a pure devotee. So he just started, praying, Lord. He was not anxious, he thought that it was rather his past misdeed which is causing him suffer this, this whole thing. So when the demon appeared, we would see how Krishna's Sudarshan Chakra appeared there, and it killed the demon immediately, saving, his pure devotee, which was Amrish Maharaj. And the chakra then started chasing Durvasa Muni. And Durvasa Muni started running all the three worlds. He ran to Brahma, and Brahma said he cannot help. He ran to Shiva. He said he cannot help. Only person who can help him is Vishnu. Yeah. Then he went to Vishnu abode, and then he was requesting, and then finally Vishnu said that even I don't have it in my hands. If my devotee Amrish Maharaj forgives you, then I can. Only then the Sudarshan chakra can be taken back. So then Durvasa Muni went and he asked for forgiveness from Amrish Maharaj, and he was forgiven. And and then this is how it was depicted, that how Krishna is there to save his devotees, and how Amrish Maharaj, the way he carried, like this paragraph here says, a pure devotee is never disturbed in any circumstances, just like Amrish Maharaj. Even when the demon appeared, you wouldn't see him disturbed at all, because they are completely, their mind, intelligence, everything is absorbed in Krishna, right? All the time. Nor is envious of anyone, nor does a devotee become his enemy's enemy. He did not become Durvasa Muni's, he did not retaliate to Durvasa Muni, right? Durvasa Muni did all this, but at the end, Amrish Maharaj just forgave him. He did not have those grudges in him, right? And then the paragraph says, he thinks this person is acting as my enemy due to my past own misdeeds. That's the thought process of a devotee. Anything wrong happens, they don't develop that grudge for the others. It's rather the accountability is taken by them own. That's the thing. It's like easy to fall, we say, right? Easy to find faults in others. Look at ourselves. We have to first look at ourselves. Scrutinize the faults we have. Right? And then whenever a devotee is in distress or has fallen into difficulty, he thinks that it is the Lord's mercy upon him. Right? So we learned this in past also, that when a devotee will undergo that in happiness and distress as when the devotee gets gets the situation of happiness, he thinks as a blessing of Krishna, and rather Krishna has given much more than he deserved. And when there is distress, it is they take the whole accountability that it is because of their own past mistakes. Like this, we see several stories in Bhagavatam, like Chitraketu was a very famous king. He had thousands of wives, but he couldn't get a son to carry forward his kingdom. So he then, I think it was Angira Muni who said that they can perform a sacrifice through which Chitraketu can get a son. After a lot of endeavor, even after having thousands of wives, he could finally, after that sacrifice, the sacrificial prasad, what he got, the offering, he gave it to his first wife. And finally, after that, his first wife conceived the child, right? And child was born. But what happened? It was a happy time, the most happy time the whole kingdom was looking forward. But what happened once the child was born? Chitraketu's full attention, and was on the child and the mother of the child, which was the first queen, first wife of this. And what that created was, the other wives started feeling envy. And eventually, even though everything was so apt, the other, wives together made a plan and they poisoned the infant child. So envy nature is such that it eventually leads to destruction. And that's why Krishna highlights that non-enviousness in us is the most important quality. We need to develop. Because envy nature is something like, it starts with a kind of competitive mindset. If we think, we always look at ourselves versus what's the grass is always greener on the other side, right? That is the initial mindset. It is mainly because we feel that others have something which we don't have. And that thing is the only thing which will make us happy. That's how the thought process goes. If others have more, we have to understand it is because of their past deeds. If because of their bank account, collection they have. And if we are having something less, that is because of our past. So that understanding, if we develop, then it kind of builds us to accept, not have that, or have that less competitive nature when something else is with somebody else. It's very important. Yeah. So we should have competition, yes, but healthy. Why Krishna wants this nature to be developed in us? Because in spiritual world, there is no envy. There is no envy. It's like the peacock is very happy that it can please Krishna by its dancing. The birds are very happy because they can please Krishna by their singing. Nobody is competing. The bird is not saying that, wow, your peacock is dancing so well, it is pleasing Krishna, so let me also. Oh dear, I don't know how to dance, and create that envy. No, utilize your own skills, what you have. The ultimate aim is to please Krishna, right? So we should not be imitating others. We should rather, we should have the quality of appreciating others. That is very important. If we appreciate such quality in others, then we try to adapt them in us rather than imitate. So that is why it is very, see, at the end of the day, why is it such? Because if we love somebody, the baseline is that somebody should be pleased. Yeah. If we really love somebody, then our aim is to see them how they are pleased, either by you or by others. That is true love, right? At the end of the day, that person should be pleased. And that's how, in spiritual world it is. Krishna gets pleased. That's the only thing they need. Yeah. So okay, so with that, we'll move to the next quality, which is nirmamo nirhankar. Yeah, that is nirmama. Mama is I, me, myself. Nirmama, no, not having such a mindset. Nirahankar, false ego, right? So nirmama means that a devotee does not attach much importance to the pains and troubles pertaining to the body, but he knows perfectly well that he is not the material body. He does not identify with the body. Therefore, he is freed from the conception of falsity and is equipoised in happiness and distress. He is tolerant and he is satisfied with whatever comes by the grace of the Supreme. Right? So, false ego is the main thing, right? It is the most subtlest. When, if you remember, our gross body and subtle body. Gross body is made up of 5 elements, right? And subtle body is made up of mind, intelligence, and ego. And false ego layer is the most closest to the soul. Yeah, and that is the most difficult for us to overcome. So getting off that mindset of I, me, myself. I did this, so I should have this. That is which makes us fall down. That proprietorship, right? Having things, everything under our control. I am the owner of this. If I have put the hard work, I am the only person who should get the results. That kind of a thought process, right? So See, there was a question asked to Prabhupada in one of his interviews that how to get rid of this false ego. Yeah. And Prabhupada answered that, always that how the whole process of Mahavishnu, out of his many millions of pores, universes come out. And in that one universe, Garbhodaksha Vishnu comes. And then in that Garbhodaksha Vishnu comes Brahma. And then from Brahma comes 84 lakh of species. And of them, certain thousand are human species. And of those human species, there are different continents, right, in the world, which are, we are all situated. Out of all those continents, we are in one continent. Out of all that millions of people in that one continent, we are in one, country. Out of that one country, we are in one state, city, and then in one area, and then we. So how insignificant we are compared to Mahavishnu. So why are we competing? Why do we have that ego, false ego? We are actually nothing, right? We are nothing. So we are just, this should again and again make us realize how tiny we are in this world. Okay. And for devotees, it's like a different approach. They know that Krishna is the most expensive, what do you say, invaluable thing he has. For example, I was hearing this that say you have a 5 rupee in your hand on one hand, and on the other hand you have say 5 lakh rupees. Yeah. And that's all the money you have, say 5 rupees. Yeah. Now, if we have only 5 rupees in your account, then you will get distressed heavily. What if I lose it? Right? And you will not even give it to anybody, not even share. But when you have, on the other hand, 5 lakh or 5 crore rupees, then the attitude towards that 5 rupee is nothing, right? Oh, this 5 rupee you can give to not only one person, but such 5 rupees you can give to 100 persons, even thousands maybe, because your mindset when you have 5 lakh changes for that 5 rupee, right? Because it is seen as something very menial, less important, right? Similarly, for devotees, when they say Krishna on one hand and this material world, with whatever material asset we have in other hand, they see it as very menial. It's not of much value at all. So their focus is more on this, right? And that's why that kind of proprietorship, is lacking. And in this picture, we are showing this is actually a king, Prataparudra, he was the king of Orissa. And how that, you would see that this quality of nirmamu, nirahankaro from him, where you can see him doing what? Can somebody say what is he doing? What does he have in his hand?
Mataji, sweeping.
Sweeping, yes. He's grooming. And what he's doing, that when the Jagannath Rath Yatra is out there, he being the king, he was sweeping the whole road where Jagannath was coming. Is he thinking I am a king? Oh, no, right? So this is how, we should be. We should develop that quality of nirmama. I am this, I can't do this. No, I am the owner. No, he's the king, right? But still, he's doing that because he knows he's very menial in front of the Supreme. Okay. So with that, then sama equal dukha, sukha, shami, which is forgiving, and santushta, satisfied, right? So it says he's tolerant and he's satisfied with whatever comes by the grace of the Supreme Lord. He does not endeavor much to achieve something with great difficulty. Therefore, he's always joyful. A devotee is a completely perfect mystic because he is fixed in the instructions received from the spiritual master. And because his senses are controlled, he is determined. He is fully conscious that Krishna is eternal Lord. No one can disturb. And we see the example here of Parikshit Maharaj, right? What happened to Parikshit Maharaj? The whole Bhagavatam is based on, more or less, in a way, just because Parikshit Maharaj got cursed by the Brahmana's son that in 7 days, he will be killed. So when he got to know he was the king of the whole universe, just imagine. When he got to know that he was cursed, that in just 1 week, he would be losing his life, how would a devotee be? But Parikshit Maharaj is a standard example. He was just equipoised, samaha, and he rather took it as Krishna's mercy, on him, even though, he didn't really deserve it, but he was not distressed. He was not distressed at all. Rather, he was thinking, that I should fully give myself, for these 7 days. He did not think, whom should I give the kingdom? No, nothing material. So, see, he understood. He took it as this thing has happened to me. The curse has happened to me because of my past mistakes. Yeah, and in fact, Krishna is being so merciful to him. That it has come in much less quantity to him. So he is santushta, sama, happiness or distress. He's equiposed. Such a devotee. And then, dhrada nishchaya, we have spoken about this, determination, self-control, always engaged in devotional service, focusing mind and intelligence on Krishna. And who can be better example than Prabhupada on this, right? Dhrada nishchaya, I think he was so determined at that age when we all think that we should take care of ourselves, we have struggled enough, just stay home and just spend, time relaxing. He was more concerned on everybody. Right? He had that determination, to spread Krishna consciousness, to follow his spiritual master's order. Right? That fixed determination. And his whole thing, mind, intelligence, everything he did was for Krishna. So Yatatma is, he was like that because, say, for example, he went there and he didn't have a place to stay. He landed up in a unknown country, unknown place, which he hadn't even known much in that generation. Now we know what you can get in US, what you cannot get in other parts of the world, because the technology is so high, right? But he was Yatatma, like even if he didn't have place to stay, even if he didn't get food, his mind was never agitated. He was still Dhrada Nishchaya. He was even if his mind happened to be disturbed, but it doesn't get weakened. His firm conviction was the thing which took him, right? Of that firm faith on Krishna. Okay. So then 15th verse is, the translation is, he by whom no one is put into difficulty, and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress. Fear and anxiety is very dear to him. Again, he highlights, right, in the next verse. Such a devotee is very dear to him. And standard example is, I think, Prahlad Maharaj, right? He was put into so many difficulties by Hiranyakashipu, so many, into a boiling oil, to kill him. They tried to throw him from a very tip of the hill. Yes, he was to stamp by the elephants, what not, putting him in fire. But he was never anxious. Such a devotee was Prahlad Maharaj. He was still, later when Krishna came in Narsimha Avatar to kill Hiranyakashipu. Prahlad Maharaj still, he was like, he was still praying. He never thought bad for Hiranyakashipu, his father. Materialistic thinking is they feel happy when something nice happens. They feel fearful when they are about to lose something, right? Or even if they're not losing, they're always in fear that what if I lose this, right? And they cannot, but these emotions will not be in devotees. They are free. Whatever happens, it's because of Krishna's will. It's like not only heard, but also registered and digested. It's like a devotee's intention is always to heal people, not harm, right? And that's what Prahlad Maharaj was also. He never retaliated to Hiranyakashipu. never thought about his harm, how much ever he underwent. It's like we give that example of a doctor holding a knife, now a doctor is holding a knife to cure a person, right? Not to harm the person. He has to have that knife so that that person can be cured. Similarly, a devotee is like that knife, that instrument for Krishna in Krishna's hand, to help such materialistic people to be cured, So then I think the next verse is again talking about the qualities, in 16th verse, anapekshaha means neutral, suchir dakshaha means the devotee is pure or clean, also an expert and skillful in all situations, udasino, that means, unattached, and gatavyataha, free from all pains, sarvarambha, free from all material endeavors, yo mad bhakta sa me priya, again he is highlighted, such a devotee is very dear to me. Yeah. So these are also some of the key qualities that, see, anapeksha. See, anapeksha is coming from peksha, that is paksha. Paksha means taking side of somebody. A devotees are neutral. For example, money can be offered to them. Even if it is not offered, they are not affected. They are neutral, whether they get it or they don't. And they are pure, like they are clean. Externally also they bathe twice a day minimum. They follow all the regulative principles. They eat only prashadam, so they are clean, right? They are and skillful in all situations. You'd see how, be it management, be it cooking, be it anything, they are experts in it. They are not someone like, no, just because they are doing devotion, they don't know things. No, they might be still. So then, free from all pains, we have spoken about it. Udasinaha, that is, they are careful, and sarvarambha parityagi, free from all material endeavors. For example, a devotee doesn't build big house for their own pleasures. They would rather support building big temples for Krishna. That's the mindset of such devotees. Nothing self comes, but Krishna comes. Okay. With that, then this is a bit of 117 shloka, one who neither rejoices nor grieves, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious. Such a devotee is very dear to me. Again, Krishna highlights that. So with that, 18th and 19th verse. Now you will see that this is like a gist given, right? And like we have mentioned, the qualities you may feel that they are repeated, but just like when Arjuna saw the universal form, he was in ecstasy and he was repeating. But these are also being repeated so that it makes us, remind ourselves and to set that in our mind, to emphasize the fact that devotees must have all these qualifications. Only then Krishna will say, yes, such a devotee is dear to me, right? So 18th and 19th, one who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent. Always silent means they don't talk nonsense. They talk only about Krishna, and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge and who is engaged in devotional service. Such a person is very dear to me. When they say who doesn't care for any residence, so we'll see that, we have Goswamis as a standard example, the 6 Goswamis. They used to, every night, they used to sleep under different trees. They did not even sleep under the same tree for more than a day. To not have, right? So that they don't have any residence, they don't want to feel that attached anyway, right? And like I said, silent means not talking anything materialistic or like nonsense, but they open their mouth when they open their mouth, it's more only for around Krishna, teaching for Krishna. And one important thing here is also free from contaminating association. That is very important. The devotees always associate only with devotees. They never associate with materialistic person. Why? Yeah. So see, we tell that saying, right? You can tell a person how he is, based on his association, based on his friends. That's why since childhood, we always heard from our parents that, you're going to school, make friendship with the front benchers, not the back benchers, right? We have that mindset, right? Why? Because the parents know that if you're associating with people who don't study, you will also turn like that, right? So association is the key, and that's why for us to develop in devotional service, they are the key in our life. Because it's very easy nowadays with the advertisements, with the technology, to get attracted. If you are having an association, they say there was a person who took a new year resolution as not to smoke. Yeah. Now if this person is taking a new year resolution not to smoke, then the main thing, but if he continues to have association of friends who smoke, will it help him to develop in his resolution? No, because association influences us. He may be able to stop himself for a certain period of time, but not beyond that, because he will get influenced with such association. So if we don't want to turn into materialistic in thought process and be stern in our sadhana bhakti, then we have to associate with devotees. That is the key, for our progress. So with that, we come to the last shloka for today. And maybe Ramaprabha Mataji, can you read it?
Yes, Mataji. Hierarchy. Yetu dharmamrutam idam yadoktam paryupashate shraddadana matparama bhaktaste adiva me priyaha. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal and very, very dear to me. Bhagavad Gita 12.20. Mataji, are you on mute?
Sorry, thank you. So I was just saying, this is the conclusion given by Krishna, for the whole Bhakti Yoga section, that when who completely engages themselves with faith, again the faith has, making Krishna as supreme goal. He's adding again, after saying so many times, very dear to me, he's adding one more very, very, very dear to me, right? So that is his conclusion for this whole, section of Bhakti Yoga in Gita. Yeah? Faith is again highlighted here. It is the starting point of devotional studies. Right? It is very important to develop that faith, and that faith will gradually increase, and develop into that stage of, nishtha, right? Stern faith, unflinching faith. Yeah. So with that, we'll go to the last slide for today. And maybe Reshma Mataji, can you read this?
In this chapter, it is decided that through good association, one develops attachment for pure devotional service and thereby accepts to bona fide spiritual master, and from him begins to hear and chant and observe the regulative principles of devotional service with faith, attachment, and devotion, and thus becomes engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord. This path is recommended in this chapter. Therefore, there is no doubt that devotional service is the only absolute path for self realization, for the attainment of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. So, yeah, so I think through this, Krishna is saying, right, asamshaya, through devotional service, you will reach Krishna. There is no samshaya. Yeah. And it is, like good association is something which is like a launch pad, which puts us up, it develops that attachment for pure devotional service. Okay. So with that, we conclude the 12th chapter. Also, that concludes the middle part of Bhakti Yoga, for us.